And finally, being presented by TV Tokyo in Japan, coming from Ota City General Gymnasium in Tokyo, Japan, is a double header of world title fights, along with a number of undercard fights, but a double header of world title fights between Jezreel Corrales and Taguchi-Uchiyama, the rematch for the WBA World Super Featherweight Championship, in a rematch of what was probably really, at least thus far, unless something else crazy happens before the end of the year on December 31st, the upset of the year between Corrales and Uchiyama. Along with that is going to be the WBA World Light Flyweight Championship, with Ryoichi Taguchi defending his title against tough, rugged Carlos-Canizales of Venezuela. So first of all, I'm going to get to the main event, Jezreel Corrales versus Takeshi Uchiyama. Of course, you guys probably remember back when I made my video talking about, or reviewing rather, their initial meeting. It was just a brutal, shocking upset, and one where Jezreel Corrales showed quite a bit of skill in doing it. I've been telling people, like, hey, with this rematch, we'll see if that first fight was a fluke. But I mean, to me and to pretty much everybody that I've talked to about it, it definitely didn't look like any kind of fluke. The way he set up his punches was just beautiful, brilliant, and brutal. Or as I sometimes say, it was brutal. It was it was very impressive. And Uchiyama really just didn't even get a chance to get into a rhythm. He was just shocked and awed from the very first bell. Uchiyama was landing just clean shots on him, showing a lot of skills. From San Miguelito, Panama, showing a lot of pride for that Panamanian spirit of the likes of Roberto Duran, or even recently Anselmo Moreno. And just he came through in brutal fashion, with a tremendous upset and just a fantastic knockout. Just looked very, very impressive, taking out in 2 rounds one of the premier fighters of the 130-pound division, a guy in Uchiyama who had fought a number of really top-notch opponents. He managed to stop Takashi Miura, who of course had a Fight of the Year candidate a little over a year ago against Francisco Vargas. He managed to stop Brian Vasquez, who himself was a titleist at 130 pounds. Defeated Jorge Solis, who was a titleist at featherweight for a little while, and had been reigning, for a few years, just with a bit of an iron fist. Had been crushing just about everybody that he came across in terms of his WBA mandatories. And just came a cropper pretty much against Jezreel Corrales in just a shocking upset. Uchiyama was just about to potentially come stateside too, and Corrales went over there and just pretty much ate his lunch, almost sent him into retirement. Uchiyama had actually considered retiring at the age of 37 after that, 36 before then, when they actually fought back in April. But considered retiring, after having a pretty successful career, 24 1-1 with 20 knockouts. Corrales will be coming this fight at 20 wins, 1 loss with 8 knockouts. That loss was in his second fight of his career, a decision loss. And it was a fight where he actually got dropped early, but he's managed to recover from that early misstep in his career, like some other great fighters have done. The likes of Marquez, Hopkins, and has blown a lot of people away, and including Uchiyama in their first fight. We'll see if he can repeat that performance. If not, though, if he's not able to light up Uchiyama in the early rounds, he may be in for a long night. Uchiyama has brutal power in both hands. Has shown that power in both early and late in fights. Has actually stopped a number of his opponents in the 8th, 9th, 10th round. And it's going to be a very interesting fight. A firefight, I think. Both guys have enough. I think Uchiyama has enough power to hurt just about anybody. Corrales certainly has enough power to hurt Uchiyama, as he showed in their first fight. And it's going to be just a fun, don't blink type of fight, I think. Brutal fight. Every bit as fun probably as the Tanaka versus Fuentes fight might wind up being. The fight that I mentioned in another recent video. But it should be really interesting. See if Corrales continuously proves himself as who I consider the top fighter at 130 pounds. I mean, there's that old saying: you got to be the man. If you want to be the man, you got to beat the man. You got to beat the man if you want to be the man. And Corrales definitely did that in emphatic fashion, more so than any other fighter at 130 pounds. Regardless of who it is, whether it's Lomachenko, Vargas, Salido, whoever. That was a fantastic win. The clear premier win of the division currently as it stands right now. Of course, as I mentioned before, the co-feature to this fight will be the WBA light flyweight champion Ryuichi Taguchi defending his title against the tough, rugged, upset-minded Carlos-Canizales, 16-0 with 13 knockouts. Taguchi is 25-2-1 with 11 knockouts. So this guy's looking, he's packing a little bit of power. 23-year-old as opposed to 30 for Taguchi. He's looking to upset the apple cart. He's a guy that really has fought pretty weak opposition by and large in Venezuela. With the exception of Robert Barrera, a guy that was undefeated. They were basically two undefeated prospects. Barrera, a fighter from Colombia, and Carlos Canizales managed to actually come out on top in that fight by a split decision. Who knows? Maybe eventually they'll meet in a rematch with both of them as champions, because both of them have been undefeated since then. Of course, Canizales undefeated as in total, and Barrera with only that one loss. But he's gonna have to fight a very, very tough opponent in Taguchi to do that. I've mentioned it before. To me, Taguchi is, I think, one of the most well-rounded boxers in the sport right now. Technically brilliant, great jab, great right hand, great hook, great uppercuts, good body work. In spite of the fact that he's a very tall fighter for the division, he's 5'6" with a 68-inch reach, has the longest reach, and is the tallest fighter in the division, possibly ever as a champion. And Canizales is only 5 feet tall with a 62-inch reach. So, Taguchi definitely has a big height and reach advantage on him. But Canizales, as I mentioned before, it seems like he packs a bit of power since he has a pretty high knockout ratio. But Taguchi packs quite a bit of power of his own, has managed to hurt opponents, has managed to stop opponents, including the likes of Juan Jose Landaeta, former champion, and managed to hurt Ryo Miyazaki in his last fight a number of times before going to a unanimous decision victory. Of course, originally he became a bit well known for being the first man to actually last the distance against Naoya Inoue, who had been just blazing through everybody in his path by and large. And he also has some pretty impressive wins over Florante Candes and Alberto Rosell, two guys who have been lingering or have themselves been world champions in recent years, albeit briefly. So Taguchi is definitely well proven, well schooled, and well skilled in this fight, and should definitely be a favorite going into this fight. But you never know. Sometimes some of these fighters that they go through these gauntlets in South America, especially Venezuela, Colombia. Occasionally Argentina, Brazil, even. You find some of these guys that they wind up being legit. They wind up being like outright knockout artists and guys that might come in and upset your A side, upset your rising star. So we'll see if that happens for Canizales. That'll be a very big win for him as a young fighter, just pretty much getting into the good portion, the good part of his career. Coming up for his first world title against Taguchi. Or on the other hand, if Taguchi can maintain his era of overall excellence at the 108-pound division, as I mentioned before, I consider him pretty much the number one fighter, the de facto number one fighter at the 108-pound division. It's kind of a shame that he didn't get a chance to fight Donny Nietes before Nietes moved up to 112. I thought that was a very evenly matched fight, where I slightly actually edged Taguchi if they would have managed to get in there and get things done. But otherwise, 108 pounds is a very stacked division. Pedro Guevara, Ganigan Lopez, and along with Taguchi, as well as the other fight that I mentioned recently, Moises Fuentes versus Kosei Tanaka. The winner of that fight will be right in the mix, along with Akira Higashi, who you can't necessarily forget, and who could, very well come back in pretty emphatic fashion, as he did against Javier Mendoza. Taguchi versus Canizales, a fairly interesting fight in terms of we don't necessarily know what Canizales brings. I know very well what Taguchi brings. He's a very, very good fighter and a guy that, to me, should probably be on the verge of breaking into like the top 10. He's probably like a top 15 pound for pound guy, fringe pound for pound guy for me, just in terms of what he's shown in terms of his overall skill set and the fact that, he's managed to compete on a fairly even level in a certain matter against the likes of Naoya Inoue, and has also otherwise managed to reign pretty dominantly against his fellow former champions at 108 pounds. Very impressive fighter. So if Canizales was to upset the odds against Taguchi, that I think would be every bit as impressive a win as the likes of Corrales was when he first upset Uchiyama earlier this year, and is looking to prove once again in the main event of this particular card. And of course, as I did with the other videos, I'm going to link the live stream in the description box so you guys can check it out live. And if you manage to miss it live, I'll try and find the video as soon as possible, the replay video of the fight on wherever I manage to find it, and I'll link that in the post-fight review that I do for both of these fights. But should be two very fun fights. I think probably of all the cards, this is most likely the premier card by virtue of just name value, Corrales-Uchiyama and Taguchi, at least outside of the Nai Inoue card, of course, Inoue being pretty much the biggest name of all of the fighters fighting in December 30th and 31st. But Inoue's pretty much got his own date, the 30th, and on the 31st. I think most people in Japan will probably be watching the Ioka card along with Jonathan Guzman, considering Ioka's star power. But I think quite a few people are going to be interested in this rematch between Corrales and Uchiyama, as well as seeing exactly what Taguchi has to offer in continuation of his reign at 108 pounds. So, with all that said, just check the description box for the details to check it out live, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. I hope you enjoy all of the fights for New Year's. I hope you've had a Merry Christmas, Happy Holiday, and I hope you guys are having a Happy New Year. Spending time with family and everything, and and hopefully you enjoy all of these fights that I'm trying to showcase and give a little bit of shine towards to everybody out there. So enjoy that, and with that said, I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.